Thank you so much. You guys are so sweet. I'm so blessed and honored to be here tonight with you guys. I remember a hot summer night in Alpine with my family. We had moved here. We didn't know anybody. Our kids were obsessed with snow cones because they're everywhere here in Utah. And so we would go to the snow cone shack in Alpine, and Jared was there with his kids. They'd just gotten a puppy. My kids, they were all playing. And we start talking about, what do you do? What do you do? Jared shares that he owns an addiction recovery program. And I shared that I was in addiction. And, well, I was in recovery. I wasn't in addiction anymore. And Jared was so respectful of that part of me. And he wanted to know more. He wanted to know why I got sober, how I got sober. He was so respectful and wonderful. And I left that interaction and I asked him, I said, are you ever hiring? And he's like, I might be. He said, call me in a month. I was like, okay. And a month passed, and when we moved here as a family from California a year ago, we moved here literally on a wing and a prayer. We didn't have a job. My husband had been laid off during COVID. We moved here with no job. I had no job. There was a job that I was super qualified for that I felt like was like the answer to our prayers until he found one, and I didn't get that job. And it was one of the darkest days I've had in a long time. And I remember just sobbing in the car on the way home, like, God, I don't know if I can do this anymore. How much more can my family, go through? And I was scared to tell him and have that disappointment and just that devastation. And I am forever grateful that I didn't get that job, because a month passed and I remembered Jared. And I was like, I'm going to call him. And I called, and the rest is history. So Shay and I have been kind of talking about what we want to talk about tonight. And I think my message that I have for all of you is not my story. You're in groups with me. You hear, I started drinking when I was 15. I drank for 19 years. I got sober at 34. And I've been sober for 9.5 years. So you've heard that. Thank you. So I want to talk about what life is like now, because in groups I'll share what it was like. And I just don't think that my message needs to be, let me tell you how shitty it was. Because we all know shitty. We all know what that feels like. What I want to talk to you about tonight is, what do you do once you get sober to live the life that you want to live? And what does that look like, and how do you do that? Because it is a constant journey. If you are sober now and you feel like life is good and you maybe have a job, you're living on cheap rent at the sober living house, you're hanging out, life is definitely a little better than it was in your addiction. If you're satisfied, cool. Check out. This message isn't for you. My message is tonight, what do you do to keep growing? And what does that look like? And why? Why do it? So when I got sober through the rooms of AA. I changed everything about my life the morning that I decided to go to my first meeting. And I came home, or I called Brad on the phone, and I said, you're never going to believe where I just went. He's like, where? And I said, I went to an AA meeting. Because my anxiety from drinking and not being able to handle life without a drink made me feel like I could never go to a meeting without him for the first time. That was stupid. And one morning I wake up and I'm like, this is the day. I'm going to go to a meeting. So I called him and I told him, And I went to another meeting the next night. I went to an all-women's meeting. And I came home from that meeting and I said to Brad, I'm like, I think people go to meetings like a lot. Like, I think they go like more than once a week. And he was like, really? He was like, do you think you need to go? I mean, you're not that bad, right? You don't need to go. And I'm like, no, I think like that's what people do. I think I should do that. And so we changed everything. Brad's schedule changed so I could go to meetings in the evenings. My kids were so little. They were like a year and a half and three and a half years old. And I took those kids to childcare meetings, left them in rooms where they didn't know anybody and they were crying. And I took my ass downstairs and I went to meetings. And I went to meetings and I felt that hope that I hope you get when you hear those 7th step promises. And I clung to that, and that's all I wanted. And we changed everything. We let go this huge group of friends that we just partied with all the time. And we didn't look back. We didn't think twice. Brad says he wasn't friends with him anyways, but I was. We were really. And so I worked the steps. I got a sponsor, and I was like serious. I love AA. That's what saved my life. Throughout the years, shit has happened in my life. You know, I had kind of a nervous breakdown, maybe 6 or 7 years into my sobriety. And I don't say that to be dramatic. It was legitimately this like nervous breakdown I was having, and my life was falling apart. And I turned to God in that moment, and I recommitted, you know, my daily activity with God, and I just turned over some really hard shit. I turned it over to Him rather than holding on to it, thinking that I could figure it out. So, you know, things like that have happened on and off. But the thing that shook up my life the most actually was getting this job. I have never worked professionally in recovery. I've only sponsored women. I don't know what I'm doing here. And Jared and Chris were like, you'd be a great coach. Here you go. And all I wanted to do was to be great. I wanted to be the best coach. I wanted to be so good in groups that like everything I said changed people's lives. I wanted to just know how to do everything. And I didn't know how to do any of that. And part of my shit is that I want to look good. I want to look good. I want you to be like, oh, she's great. She's so great. Oh, and her clothes are cute. Like, I want to be that person. And so this is a job that you can't bullshit because you guys are all going to see right through it. And so I was like on shaky ground, like feeling so out of my element. And I'm so fortunate that there are amazing people that work here that instead of saying to me, I think we made a mistake. You're right, you're not ready. Instead, I would call Chris at night and I would just cry, and I would, cry to Shay, and I think I've cried to Jen before, and I just wanted to be happy. I wanted to feel like I could make a difference, but I know the only way that I can make a difference is if I'm making a difference for myself, if I'm showing up. So I looked around and I thought there are a lot of people that work here that have what I want. It's kind of like when you are looking for a sponsor and you start looking around and you're like, that person has their life together. Or that person is really confident in this area. I want that. And I did that as I worked here. And I realized that I needed a coach too. And so I hired Chris to be my coach. And you guys are very lucky that you get coaching for free because it is not free to work with a coach. And it's honestly the best investment I have ever made. And I Chris and I have committed to working together for the next year. And I'll tell you a little bit about what we work on. Raise my volume. Oh, can I just do this? No? Bring it closer here.
I can bring this closer.
Oh, yeah, bring it closer. Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. Oh, it's not this, it's that. Okay, got it, sorry. So let me tell you about what we have worked on and how my life has changed. So one of the things that you need to know about me is that I hate pain. I hate being in pain. I hate not being happy. I hate not feeling good. I hate that discomfort. The addict in me wants to make that go away as quickly as I can. And I no longer turn to alcohol or substances to do that, but I still want to get out of it. And I still want to be better all the time. So being uncomfortable and wanting to be better always go hand in hand. You cannot want to be better and really do the work it takes if you are not uncomfortable and in a little bit of pain. So one of the things that kind of reared its head for me when I started working with Chris, when I started working here, was this eating disorder that I have. And I've struggled with anorexia since I was 9 years old, and I have been through treatment for it. And it always kind of comes and goes for me. It's always there because it's one of the ways that I deal with not feeling good about myself. It's one of the ways that I deal with trying to control when my life feels like I can't control it. So I have this, one of the things Chris and I did that I will share with you. I had this ritual of weighing myself every day. Some of you have that same ritual. I would get ready to get in the shower in the morning, and I would get on that scale. And because I weighed myself all the time, I knew what it was going to be before I got on. I could tell if I had gained a little weight, if I was a little bloated, I knew what it was going to be. And I would wait for that number to pop up on the scale, and I let that number tell me, you're good enough today. And if that number wasn't a number that I was okay with, I let that number tell me, what the fuck is wrong with you? What are you doing? How could you let yourself get out of control? And you guys were talking 3 pounds, and I was like, holy shit. And that's a shitty way to feel. And that voice of, how could you do this? Why would you let things get out of control? What the fuck are you thinking? That's my inner dialogue with myself. So I get when I'm working with a client and I'm like, what's your self-talk? What is that inner dialogue? I get that it can be really shitty because mine has been for a long time. So Chris and I are working together, and I call him crying one evening, and I'm like, I'm so embarrassed. I didn't want to call you. I hate that I love this scale so much, and I hate it, and it's controlling my life. And Chris is like, well, you know what you should do? You should get rid of your scale. And I was like, no, I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. I will go put it in the garage for a little while. I'll just go put it in the garage. I'll take a break from it, and I'll go put it in the garage. And Chris was like, okay. He said, what's your favorite alcohol? And I was like, vodka. He's like, let's go buy the biggest bottle of vodka, the kind that you loved the most, and let's go put that in the garage with that scale. And I'll bet you in 30 days that alcohol hasn't been touched. And I was like, fuck you. You're right. And I was like, well, I don't want to smash it. If I smash it, if I get rid of it, then what am I going to do? I won't know if I'm in control or not, and I won't know. And Chris is like, Hazel, you're not in control. It is controlling you. And I was like, fuck. And I was like, maybe I'll just take the batteries out. How about I'll just take the batteries out? And Chris is like, yeah, you can do that. You can do that. I'm like, I can't get rid of it. I can't get rid of it. I'll just ease my way out. He's like, you can do that. We could maybe find something else you could do. He's like, but you said that you wanted to change, and you said that you would do anything, whatever it took. And I was like, you're right. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll get rid of that scale. So Chris is like, I'm coming over. So after group one night, Chris comes over. My husband's there. We bring the scale outside. And I have anxiety right now even talking about it. But we took it outside, and it was like I was going to chop off my arm or something, right? I was like, how am I going to handle this? Like, what am I going to do? And we had a big sledgehammer, and Chris videoed it. And I talked about why I was smashing this scale, and that it wasn't about the fucking scale. It was about how I was letting something dictate my worth. And I smashed that scale. And I can't watch the video because it gives me anxiety. But everything in my life changed that night, and not for the better. So a few days pass, Chris is laughing. A few days pass, and we meet, and he's like, so, how's it going? I'm like, worse. Like, my life is fucking falling apart. Brad and I are in a super dark place. I don't know what I'm doing at work. I forget what else. Like, there was a lot, and my life was just like a wreck. And I remember saying, like, I came to Chris, my whole goal working with Chris was I wanted to feel more confident. If you just help me feel more confident, then I'll be happy. And here it has to do with smashing a scale. My marriage is in shambles. Life is dark. Now I don't know what to eat or what not to eat. I don't think I ate for the first 4 days. I was like, it's fine, I'm fine. And Chris is like, you have to trust the process. You have to trust me. And I did. And I leaned in, and we've done some really hard work. And it makes me cry. It gets me out of my comfort zone. It makes me swear at him when we meet. It makes me swear at it's been this journey that poor Brad has been on vicariously through me as well. Are you feeling more confident in your life?
I don't know what I weigh.
Oh. You're fine. It's good. So we've just, I've done this work. And what I want to tell you is that if I, at 9.5 years sober, felt like my life was falling apart, and I said, I have to change this, I'm going to go find a coach because I know that works. You can do that. You are not unique if you feel along this journey that your life is falling apart. I think that in order for us to have change, there has to be discomfort, and we have to become really good friends with pain. And I no longer look at pain as this thing I want to avoid. I look at pain now and discomfort, and I'm like, fuck yeah, bring it. I will do it. I've learned that about myself. I came to Chris for more confidence, and what I have found is not confidence. I wasn't going to find it by, what do I need to do to be more confident? Step one. That wasn't it. It was let's do all this other work, and that confidence has come. One of the things that I've done that I recommend is this self-talk that Chris and I do together. And I know we've all heard of affirmations. I know maybe we've all written I am beautiful, I am smart, I am strong, I am whatever, and we put them on our mirror, or we do it in some group, and it's you say that, and maybe you say it for a few days, and then you're like, this is kind of stupid. Stupid. And so Chris is we need to rewire what it is that you say to yourself. What are those thoughts that then cause the emotion and the action? We're going to rewire that. And so he has this amazing way to help you do that. And we identified what are the things that I feel good about myself. And the biggest thing I am the most proud of is that I'm an overcomer. And so we wrote this big self-talk around being an overcomer and doing hard things. And as I do hard things, I become confident and strong, and I remember who I really am. And we wrote those, and we went in the podcast room, and we recorded them, and he has me do it with my hands on my hip. Laska knows this, because I've had her do it too. You stand up in this powerful, confident stance, and I say those, and he records them, and then he sent them to me, and he put them on a loop. And so I hear this overcomer talk that I've written, and I listen to it. And what I've learned is that I need to hear that. That needs to be the voice that I hear more than my own voice, right? But it is my voice. It's just that kinder, more powerful voice. So I listen to that in the morning when I first wake up. And I listen to it sometimes when I'm driving. And I listen to it at night before I go to bed, or I listen to it on the way here, and I know it so well, I can say it by heart. And I was saying it in the car as I was driving over here tonight, needing to feel that boost of confidence. So self-talk has changed my life. So don't poo-poo it. If you want to really do that work, whether or not Chris and I are your coach, we are happy to do that with you, it will change your life. It feels stupid. It feels simple. How could this do anything for me? And I will tell you now, when I look at my body, or I think about how much I weigh, or any other thing that I have in my life that I'm using to gauge my worth, I hear myself say, I am an overcomer because I've done hard shit. And as I continue to do hard things, I realize that I'm strong and I'm powerful and I remember who I really am. And that's what I hear. And that's why I have that confidence that was so elusive to me before. So that's my story for you tonight.